السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله على إحسانه وشكر له على تفضله وامتنانه، ولا إله إلا الله تعظيما لشأنه، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله داعي إلى رضوانه وعلى آله وأصحابه وإخوانه. أما بعد. إخواني في الله, we are continuing with our lecture series regarding the signs of the Day of Judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, فَقَدْ جَاءَ أَشْرَاطُهَا, that the signs of the Day of Judgment have appeared. We are looking at sign number 52, where the Muslims shall conquer the city of Istanbul, the city of Constantinople, for the second time in the history. In the previous lectures, Ikhwani Fillah, we looked at how the Muslims came to conquer this city of Constantinople the very first time, based on a hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, where the Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam tells the Muslims, لا تفتحن قسطنطينية فلنعم الأمير أميرها ولنعم الجيش ذلك الجيش. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam, he says in this hadith, as authenticated by Imam al-Dhahabi and Imam al-Hakim, he says, all Muslims, you shall conquer the city of Constantinople. فلنعم الأمير أميرها, and a blessed leader is the leader who conquers the city of Constantinople, and a blessed army is the army that conquers the city. We looked at the rulers of the Ottoman empires, from Sulaiman Shah to Ertugrul to Uthman to Urkhan to Murad I. Then we looked at, I forgot, after Murad I is Bayezid, then Muhammad, then Murad II. We are now looking at the 7th Sultan of the Muslims, the hero of our lecture series tonight, Muhammad al-Fatih, also known as Abu al-Khayrat, the Muslim leader who conquered the city of Constantinople. Ikhwani Fillah, the historians, they say, amongst them the great leader of France, Napoleon Bonaparte, he says, if the entire world was one country, if the entire world was a single country, the city that is most fit to be the capital city of the entire world is this city of Constantinople. If the entire world was one country, the city that is fit to be the capital city of the entire world is this city of Constantinople. The Muslims, from the time of the Sahaba, the time of the Khalif of the Muslims, Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, he sent his son, Yazid ibn Muawiyah, to conquer this city of Constantinople. And the Muslims, they try very hard, but they are unable to do so. And the great Sahabi, Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, radiallahu anhu, he dies at the fortress or near the border of Constantinople. Also at the time of Sulaiman ibn Abdul Malik, the year 98 of the Hijri calendar, he tries conquering this city, he's unable. 11 times the Muslims have tried to conquer this city, but they have failed. What makes this young man so special, Muhammad al-Fatih, that he thinks he is the one who was prophesied to conquer this city by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This man, he had an excellent upbringing. He was brought up as a true Muslim, as a leader from the time he was born. His father, Murad II, he says, my son is not serious with his studies. I need a good sheikh who will take care of him. So he sends a sheikh called Ahmed ibn Ismail al-Qurani, and he gives him a stick. He tells him, go to my son and beat him up, teach him manners until he follows the religion and memorizes the Quran of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as required. So the Imam Ahmed ibn Ismail al-Qurani comes to the Sultan and says to him, I have been given this stick by your father. I have to beat you up with it. The Sultan laughs, what are you going to do? That day he was beaten up by the Sheikh thoroughly, until he gave full respect to that Sheikh in particular and to all his Sheikhs. It became an attribute that he was the one kissing the hands of the scholars, not the scholars kissing his hand. Another Sheikh also, from his young age, Aq Shamsuddin, Sheikh Aq Shamsuddin, used to take him to the banks overlooking Constantinople. And he says to this young man, لا تفتحن قسطنطينية فلنعم الأمير أميرها ولنعم الجيش ذلك الجيش. Tells him, you are the one mentioned in this hadith where the Prophet ﷺ says, you shall conquer that city of Constantinople. You can see it across this water body. You will conquer that city of Constantinople. And the blessed leader is that leader. That is you, the Prophet is talking about. And the blessed army is that army that conquers it. So this boy was brought up with this tarbiyah al-Islamiyah. He knew that he is the one who is prophesied to conquer this city. And he grew up with that passion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, أَلَمْ تَرَ كَيْفَ ضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا كَلِمَةً طَيِّبَةً كَشَجَرَةٍ طَيِّبَةٍ أَصْلُهَا ثَابِتٌ وَفَرْعُهَا فِي السَّمَاءِ تُؤْتِي أُكُلَهَا كُلَّ حِينٍ بِإِذْنِ رَبِّهِ. A good word gives motivation. Always teach yourselves to these young men. Give them that motivation that they are going to be the leaders in the future. Always talk to them very nicely. Imam Bukhari, just for benefit, Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Bukhari has the most authentic book after the Quran. The most authentic book after the Quran is the book of Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Bukhari. How did he set out to write this book? He says, one day I was in the gathering of the Imam Ishaq ibn Rahawayh, and the Imam said the following words. He said, لو جمعتم كتابا في الصحيح سنة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. I really wish if one of you from amongst the Muslims will compile for me or compile for the Muslims only the Sahih Hadiths of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Imam Bukhari, as a young man, he says, فَوَقَعَ ذَلِكَ فِي قَلْبِي. Those words had a great effect on me. فَأَخَذْتُ فِي جَمْعِ الْجَامِعِ الْمُسْنَدِ الصَّحِيحِ من أمور رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وسنن وأيامه. I set out to compile this great book that is forever known as Sahih al-Bukhari. Why? Because of good words that he had from his sheikh encouraging him to get this endeavor. 16 years he compiled that book. Our final example from a good word, Imam al-Dhahabi, Muhammad ibn Ahmad ibn Uthman ibn Qamiyaz al-Dhahabi rahmahullah, one of the great scholars of hadith. He says, Wallahi, I used to sell gold in my father's shop, hence my name al-Dhahabi. But one day, one of the scholars comes, he buys gold, I write for him a receipt. He looks at the receipt and he says, إِنَّ خَطَّكَ هَذَا يُشْبِهُ خَطَّ الْمُحَدِّثِينَ. Your handwriting looks like the handwriting of the scholars of hadith. Says this young man, فَحُبِّبَ إِلَيَّ عِلْمُ الْحَدِيثِ. Ilm al-Hadith became beloved to me, studying the Hadith until I became the foremost scholar, not only in my time, but of all Islamic history. So this young man, that we're talking about tonight, Muhammad al-Fatih, every single day that the Sheikh is with him, Shamsuddin, takes him to the banks overlooking Constantinople. You shall conquer this city of Constantinople. Based on the hadith of Prophet ﷺ, a blessed leader is the leader that conquers that city, and a blessed army is the army that conquers that city. That is how this child grew up. So his father passed away in the year 855 of the Hijri calendar. And the leader of the Muslims was this young man, only 20 or 22 years of age, Muhammad II, known as Muhammad al-Fatih in history. So he says to himself, this city of Constantinople is the most difficult city on the world to conquer. The most difficult city in the world to conquer. The city, imagine, look at this phone. Let's imagine the city of Constantinople is this phone. This side is a water body known as the Sea of Marmara. This side is a water body known as the Bosphorus. This side is another water body known as the Golden Horn. Three sides water: the Marmara, the Bosphorus, and the Golden Horn. Only this side of Europe is where there is land. And around Constantinople are 2 or 3 walls surrounding it, very high walls that are guarded by tens of thousands of soldiers. Constantinople is self-sufficient. It has all the water it requires. There's an underground water that comes from as far as the mountains of Bulgaria. It has no problem with fresh water. It has been tried many years to be besieged, to be conquered. This city has never been conquered. But this young man, he says, I am the one to conquer it. Muhammad al-Fatih. So he says, number one, let me deal with the treasury of the Muslims. I assure the finances of the Muslims are in order. Done. Number one. Number two, look after the army. Build a great army. He builds a great army. 250,000 soldiers. Done. Number three, I need more weapons for my soldiers. I need to get engineers, the best engineers. He pays for an engineer from Hungary called Urban, one of the great engineers, to build him the biggest cannon ever built by a human being. The cannon of the Sultan. The biggest cannon that requires 100 oxes, 100 bulls just to drag it on the ground. Done. Weapons done. I need ships. This island is almost like an island, Istanbul, Constantinople. Water. I need ships. Build over 200, 300 ships. Done. Number 5, he says, I don't want any confusion when I'm fighting the people of Constantinople. Let me make peace with everyone. So he signs the peace agreement with Hungary. He signs peace agreement with Venice, the Dawla al-Bunduqiyya. It's called Venice. He signs peace agreement with everyone. Now I have complete focus to fight the Emperor Constantine the 11th, the leader of Constantinople. We as Muslims have conquered everywhere in Byzantine. The entire Roman Empire has fallen. The only part that is left is this capital city of theirs, the city of Constantinople. So the leader of Constantinople, he notices that this young man has too much ambition, and he looks for ways to encourage him or discourage him from fighting him. So he sends to him promises, I shall pay you this much taxes, I shall give you such and such a number of lands, please do not attack the city of Constantinople. He fails. He goes for his ministers, amongst them Khalil Pasha. He gives him a lot of wealth. Talk to your guy, talk to the Sultan not to come attack us. He fails in this ambition. He says, let me go get allies from Europe, my fellow Christians in Europe, to come assist me. But the Europeans, they're not willing to assist him, because he is from the Orthodox Christian church and most of the Europeans are from the Catholic church. And these two people hate themselves so much, they even prefer Muslims to one another. So he tries everything to defend his city, but is unable to do so. Meanwhile, the great Khalifa of the Uthman Empire, Muhammad al-Fatih, has his preparations ready. April 6th, the year 1453 of the Hijri calendar. The year 1453 of the Christian calendar. The great army of the Muslims, it comes to the part of the land of Constantinople and it besieges it. It barricades over there. It builds its campsite facing the walls of Constantinople. So the leader of Constantine, he doesn't know what to do. The Muslims, they begin. They start attacking the city. They bomb it left, right and center with the cannons that they have brought. The walls, every time they collapse, these people are very excellent in building, very excellent engineering. They rebuild the city immediately. Those walls are immediately rebuilt at night. So the Sultan wonders what to do. One of the walls falls, the Sultan rushes with his army. Go, enter through that wall. They try to enter through that wall, they're defeated. A few of the Europeans from the kingdom of Genoa in Italy, they come with their ships and they're able to enter through the golden horn. This golden horn, you cannot put your ship through because it has chains. It has heavy chains that destroys all ships except the ships which are allowed to cross. So they descend the chains, they allow it to cross and they raise it up. So this kingdom of Genoa came with his mercenaries, and amongst them is a person called Justinian from Genoa. He's the one who took leadership of the army of the people of Constantinople. And they start defending themselves against the Muslims. The Muslims have a lot of morale, despite losing many lives. Allahu Akbar, An-Nasru Lillah. And they have scholars going amongst them, reciting the ayats regarding jihad, the ayats regarding martyrdom, and more particularly recited unto them, Surah Al-Anfal. So the Muslims have a lot of morale. But morale is not enough. We need a way to finish this city. We need a way to conquer this city. So the leader, he thinks, I've tried with my cannons, I'm not able to do. I've tried entering through this golden horn, but these chains are destroying all my ships. So what do I do? He comes up with an idea, Ikhwan Fillah, that has never been seen in history. Never seen in history. The very first commander to come with this idea. He says, I'm not able to cross this golden horn because of these chains. I shall go around it with my ships. What do you mean you'll go around it with your ships? There are mountains here and there are hills. You're talking about your ships going on land. He says, yes, my ships will go on the land. So he commands for trees to be cut, these trees to be oiled, and at night, in one single night, the Ottoman army, the Muslim army, they start carrying their ships across the land and across the hills. They're carrying it and dragging it along these logs. Subhanallah, 67 ships crossed in one night. In the morning, at the time of Fajr, the Nasara, they wake up and they are frightened beyond frightened. How have the ships of the Muslims arrived through and have come to this side of the Golden Horn? This is the side we thought we were safe. So they were really shaken up, and they had no choice except to remove the army from the west that was guarding the wall of the land side and bring in a part of it to cover this other flank. They were outflanked by the Muslims and they did not know what to do. The Muslims, they continued attacking this city. The whole of April passed. Came May, the Muslims are not able to attack. They attack with the big cannon, the Sultan cannon. The cannon overheats, it blows up. The engineer who built it, outbound from Hungary, he dies. The Sultan says, there's no problem, we're continuing. He builds towers of wood and he puts tires, or he drags it near the fortresses. He comes to those towers, the towers are burnt. He says, no problem, tomorrow I'll build 4. He never loses morale, subhanahu wa ta'ala. He tries destroying the fortress with the cannons, he's not able. With the ship, not able. He tries with the ladders, they're shot with arrows, they're burnt with hot oil. He does not lose morale. He gets another idea, he says, let me try from the underground. So he tells the Muslims, dig underground. And the Muslims, they dig underground. But the Christians, they discover that Muslims are digging underground. So they build alternate tunnels to mislead them. And they attack the Muslims with fire, and many Muslims get burnt, and some of them get asphyxiated, they get oxygen loss because of the smoke. So he thinks, Rahimahullah, what do I do? He sends peace offers to the leader of Constantinople. Leave the city, I'll give you freedom. You, your family, take all your wealth, surrender this city to the Muslims. The leader refuses of Constantinople. He says, I am here to die. I'm here to defend the Messiah and Mary. I will die here because of my religion. So the Sultan, Rahimahullah, decides the only way that I can defeat this city is that I have to boost the morale of the Muslims. So he goes by himself to the Muslims and he gives them a khutbah, reminding them of the fadl of defending the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal, and reminding them that the Prophet ﷺ said in authentic hadith, لا تفتحن قسطنطينية فلنعم الأمير أميرها ولنعم الجيش ذلك الجيش. O Muslims, you shall conquer the city of Constantinople, and a blessed leader is the leader that conquers this city, and a blessed army is the army that conquers this city. You are the ones that this hadith is talking about. And you know the Sahabi Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. Do you know who this Sahabi who came and died at the borders of Constantinople? Who is this Sahabi Abu Ayyub al-Ansari? Khalid ibn Zayd radiallahu anhu. Well, the Prophet ﷺ came from Mecca for his hijrah. He came with Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. He enters the city of Medina. And the very house that he stays in is the house of Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. This is the man who hosted the Prophet ﷺ, and he came to our lands to die here. We want the same thing that Abu Ayyub al-Ansari did. So the Muslims, they got a lot of morale. On the other side, the Christians, the people of Constantinople, they were seeing signs after signs that were demoralizing them. Number one, they were going around with a statue of Mary. It's not Mary, but they're saying it's a statue of Mary. But this statue fell and it broke. And they said, the Muslims are taking over. The statue of Mary has gone. Mary is no longer protecting us. Then there was a lot of rain, thunder, lightning struck the church of Hagia Sophia. They said, the church has been struck. Wallahi, we're going to be defeated. And the patriarch or the leader of the Christians in Constantinople goes tells the king, the emperor, the church has been struck by lightning. Allah has left us. God has left us to our will. We are going to be taken over by the Muslims. They saw so many signs that demoralized them. On the other hand, the Muslims were getting morale. On the 29th of May, the year 1453 of the Christian calendar, the 20th of Jamad al-Ula, the year 857 of the Hijri calendar. The Muslims, they managed, after losing a lot of shuhada, to conquer the city of Constantinople. One of the greatest victories, not only in Islamic history, but in world history. For this was the city that was known as the city fit to be the capital city of the world. And the Muslims conquered it in the year 857. Almost 850 plus years after the Prophet ﷺ had prophesied that we Muslims are going to conquer this city of Constantinople. And this Sultan of the Muslims, who led the Muslims from the year 855 of the Hijri calendar to the year 886, was known forever as Muhammad al-Fatih, Muhammad the Conqueror, Muhammad Abu al-Barakat. Read more on this great man. And from that day, the city of Constantinople was not known as the city of Constantinople, it was known as the city of Istanbul, the city of Islam, currently pronounced as Istanbul. Before we talk in the next lecture regarding the second conquest of the Muslims of the city of Istanbul, there are some points that are important to make. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَلَا تَبْخَسُوا النَّاسَ أَشْيَاءَهُمْ. Do not deny people their virtue. Some brothers, they have been unfair to the people of Turkish origin. They have said the people of Turkish origin have not done anything for the Ummah al-Islamiyah. And that is an utter falsehood. For these people of Turkish origin are the ones who have ruled the Muslims for most of our history. We have a history of 1400 years. Over more than half, over more than 60-70% of it, we were ruled by the people of Turkish origin. The Seljuks, the Mamalik, the Ayyubids, the Zenkis, the Ottomans, all these dynasties that were there were from Turkish or Kurdish origin. They were not from the Arabs. This hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, yes, some scholars have declared it weak and other scholars have declared it authentic. But if you look at the Sahaba, the Tabi'in, the Atba Tabi'in, that are the best generations of Islam, they were applying this hadith in their daily lives. For how many times did they try conquering the city of Constantinople? We mentioned the year 44 of the Hijri calendar, at the time of Muawiyah. He sent his son, his crown prince Yazid ibn Muawiyah, to conquer the city, and amongst the army Sahabi, amongst them Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, at the time of Sulaiman ibn Abdul Malik. The people who conquered Andalus, Musa ibn Nusayr, Tariq ibn Ziyad, they tried conquering Constantinople from the side of Europe, the longer way. So this city has a great history with the Muslims. We do not need any negative competition amongst ourselves as Muslims, where we talk negatively about people from different nationalities or different ethnicities. We are ummatun wahida, innamal mu'minuna ikhwa. All of us are brothers. When we talk about how, for example, the Somalis defended the grave of the Prophet ﷺ at the time of Ahmed Gurey, all of us as Muslims, we get happy when you hear that story. When you hear about the stories of Salahuddin al-Ayyubi and how he removed the Crusaders from the city of Jerusalem al-Quds, we get happy regardless of Salahuddin al-Ayyubi not being an Arab. He's from the Kurd. When you hear someone like Al-Barslan and how he defended the Muslims, he was not an Arab. When you hear about Imam Bukhari, Imam Muslim, Imam Abu Dawud, Nasai, these great Imams of Hadith, many of them were not Arabs. So the Arabs are not specific, or it's not specific that all the virtue is with them. So this is a short summary of how the Muslims came to conquer the city of Constantinople, that is currently known as the city of Istanbul. We shall lose this city and we shall reconquer it, and this is sign 52 from the signs of the Day of Judgment that we shall look at in the forthcoming lecture. Wallahu alam, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.